The Beast Below, the second story of Series 5 of the new series of Doctor Who, starring Matt Smith and Karen Gillan. It's Amy's first adventure on board the TARDIS. The Doctor takes her to this place called Starship UK, and they discover that some things are horribly wrong, shall we say. We have villains that are called Smilers, and there are villains called Winders as well. There's a lot of stuff happening in this story, and in my opinion, the Smilers are an excellent idea for a villain. They look excellent, they look scary. I think kids would be scary. They would be scared of this particular villain, and yeah, I was very excited for this story, following the deserved, in my opinion, success of the previous story, The 11th Hour. The story starts off with a few kids, and the whole idea is if they're naughty, I think they get killed. They're supposed to get punished, and the way of punishment is by death, and hence why the Smiler's face changes from like a whole happy face like this to like that, and it's quite sinister. They look very creepy, very scary, and then really the story just kicks off after there. We've got the title sequence before we see Amy in space with her hair all over the place, and TARDIS lands on the Starship UK, inside the Starship UK. To be honest though, Starship UK, it sounds a bit stupid. Honestly it does. But fair enough. The whole idea of Starship UK was humans fled from Earth after a solar flare, and they fled by making a spaceship after the United Kingdom. It's got all the areas in the UK, such as Scotland. You've got different cities, such as London. And I think it's a good idea, but personally, it sounds like I'm contradicting myself. I say it's a good idea. I mean, I can understand why Steven Moffat come up with this sort of idea, but I don't know, it's just Starship UK, it just sounds a bit cheesy. So the Doctor and Amy see a girl crying. They follow her. Amy follows her into this place called Magpie Electricals, which I think is supposed to be some sort of reference to the Idiot Lantern from Series 2. And Amy goes in there and she finds this sort of claw thing. Pretty bad CGI, to be honest. It's obviously CGI. Meanwhile, the Doctor is looking around, and he like sort of looks down. He's like that, at like some sort of all these glasses with water in, and to this day I still think, what the hell is this meant to explain? And I don't know. It's just, I don't really like the idea of that at all. And then we get Liz 10, who is played by Sophie Udeniko. And to be honest, I don't like Liz 10. I just think she's annoying. I really do. I just really think she's annoying. What was the point in her wearing that mask thing? at the start of the story. It just made no sense. And then later on, you see who she really is. Plus, she got like an awfully long dress. It just does not make bloody sense. Honestly, it's absolutely bloody stupid. It is. Liz 10. It just sounds cheesy again. Like the whole Starship UK thing. It's just stupid. And then I can't really remember what happens with that. There's a bad thing about this story. It is very forgettable, which is a real shame after the fantastic 11th Hour. It's a brilliant story, but The Beast Below, nowhere near as good as this story. Amy and the girl sort of... Well, I think the girl just disappears. You never see her again for a while. And Amy, like, forgets everything because she's, like, captured by these people. It's just very confusing. The whole idea is you press this button, you forget. Or you press another button, and I think it's advocate or something like that. Can't remember. I've watched it a few times. I've really tried. I really wanted to like this story by watching it a few times, but I just can't seem to get into it. I think the beginning's fine. It's just like when you get like sort of around 10-15 minutes in, you just think, how much time have we got left? Honestly, it's one of those that just drags, and yet it's only 45 minutes long. It's not even as long as the 11th Hour, and somehow that seemed perfect. Which goes again to my argument, which I've said in other reviews what I've done, that it just seems like within the Matt Smith era, 45-minute episodes aren't long enough, like standalone stories. If it was multi-episode stories, then not as bad. I just don't understand it, because you had that with Christopher Eccleston, you had that with David Tennant, but all that seems so fine. Nothing against Matt Smith whatsoever, honestly, nothing against Matt Smith, but I just don't quite get the feel that like it has the right pace compared to other episodes. It just doesn't feel right. So yeah, you get that, and then the Doctor comes to Amy, and then from there, really, there's just lots of messing about. They end up inside this mouth, and to get vomit all over them. Looks really disgusting. I must say though, the makeup department, I think they did a good job there. I think Amy looked horrible because she's still in her dressing gown after the events of the last story. All the way through the story, she's still in her dressing gown. It's only until the next story that she's actually wearing some proper clothes. Although I do say proper, I'll go into that when I review the next story. Yeah, it's just all over the place, really. Get vomit all over them. Then they meet up with Liz 10 again. Then they go to this other place, and lots of shit happens there. And it's just discovered that the starship is actually, wait for it, a whale. Who the hell come up with that idea? Honestly, if it's a ship, it's a ship. But no, it's a star whale. Now, it's just, I still can't get my head around, like, what the hell was Moffat doing when he was writing this story. I just didn't feel convinced at all. It was just, star whale, what the hell? It was just, I was watching it for the first time, and I said, I was really looking forward to this after the 11th Hour, and it just let me down. It was just not great. And then you come to like the whole decision making thing with Liz 10. She for some reason she has to be the one who makes the decision to either kill the whale or save it. And by that means saving all the people. But then towards the end of this story, I won't spoil it for you, but it just turns out that Amy saves the day. And it's not like she knows everything about the universe already, because wind back in 11th hour, we had the Doctor crash land in her garden. She had no idea what was going on. But of course, when she was a kid, I think she was alright with it, because children can be imaginative, they can have imagination. Hence why you have all those names like the Madman from the box, Raggedy Man and all that type of thing. Then you go, flash forward 12 years later, and said stuff like, oh, went through 4 psychiatrists, and I bit them all that type of crap. And then flash forward another 2 years, and then the Doctor comes back again on the night before Amy gets married to Kenny. I mean Rory. Sorry, I nearly said Kenny again, because he keeps getting killed every freaking episode. Yeah, it's just like this story. Not long after the Doctor picks her up at the end of the 11th hour, and it just seems like Amy knows everything now. It just feels wrong. It just doesn't feel right. If it was like 4 or 5 episodes in, then I think it would make a bit more sense. But the fact that Amy, it's her first adventure on board the TARDIS, and yet she seems to know everything about this star whale, it just seems utter bonkers, really. It's just madness. And by the way, I said about the 2 years after Prisoner Zero, and in the 11th hour review I said 1 year, so I think it's actually 2 years, not 1 year. Again, can't remember. Not really bothered, to be honest. Either way. But it's either 1 year, 2 year, it doesn't really matter, does it really? And then, I keep saying then, but the day is saved by Amy, and then we get a nice scene between the Doctor and Amy. They hug each other, and the Doctor tells Amy about stuff like, oh, I'm the last of my race, I'm the last of the Time Lords, etc., etc. And Amy compares him to the whale, which I suppose makes sense. And then they go back into the TARDIS, and that's more or less their adventure done. Just not really that much to say on this story, really. They go into the TARDIS, and then they get a phone call from Winston Churchill. And while Winston Churchill's calling them, you see the shadow of a Dalek, which is a foreshadowing of Victory of the Daleks, which is the next episode, which I will be reviewing next. Overall, the story, in a nutshell, is shit. Honestly, can't stand the story at all. That's why I struggle watching it every time. Like when I try to rewatch it, I just hate it. Don't like Liz 10. Like the Smilers, but I said at the start that the Smilers were very imaginative. I didn't really go into detail about the Smilers on purpose. I'll go into quick detail on them. Basically, they do absolute bugger all. So, yeah. Smilers were just a wasted opportunity there. They looked really creepy. It's like they could talk the talk, but they couldn't walk the walk. You know, they were just shit. Smilers and Winders are like, they're both shit villains. So I'm glad that they've not come back in the Who universe ever since, and I don't really want them to. Overall, I'm going to be giving this story a 3. Yes, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. And you're probably thinking, well, hang on. And for those of you who remember when I did a review of a certain story that contained the word rings and Akaten, I gave that story a 5 out of 10. So you're probably thinking, well, you kept on going in that review saying, oh, you absolutely hate that story, and you gave it a 5 out of 10. And to be honest, I don't know which I like more, this one or The Rings of Akaten, but they're both equally bad. They're both equally bad. So, really, I'd rescore. Looking back in retrospective now, I rescored Rings of Akaten probably a 2 or a 3 out of 10. But The Beast Below, I'm going to give a generous 3 out of 10. I just think it's an absolute diabolical story. Abomination compared to 11th Hour. Very, very bad job by Steven Moffat. One of Moffat's worst, but I'll give him credit by saying that it is not his absolute worst. His absolute worst is the Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe. Oh, Jesus Christ. I have to review that story soon. So overall, thank you very much for watching this, by the way. I really appreciate it. Yeah, just don't like The Beast Below. But if you do, fair enough. But I just can't really stand it, really. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching this review. Stay tuned next time for when I shall be reviewing Victory of the Daleks.